Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be making some cream of pumpkin soup. I'm going to be using my chiffon soft margarine, and I'm going to be using 3/4 of a medium-sized pumpkin. As you can see, I have them cut into large chunks already. So let's get into this delicious recipe. So here I have my big chunks of pumpkin. I've already washed them, and we're going to be roasting these for about 45 to 50 minutes in the oven. I'm going to be getting a tray that I have and covering it with parchment paper, and we're basically going to brush on the margarine onto the pumpkin, the different sides of the pumpkin, so that it can maintain its moisture while it's in the oven, because we're going to be roasting these uncovered. The reason you want to roast these and not boil it is because when a pumpkin is roasted, it really gives the cream of pumpkin soup an unusual flavor than what you would have gotten had you boiled it. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit, lay these out on the tray, and then I'm going to stick these babies in the oven. Now that I'm done putting them on the tray, I'm going to stick these in the oven for at least 45 minutes. You can go 50 minutes if you realize that at 45 minutes they're not soft enough, but be sure to set a timer because you don't want them in there too long. This is how they're looking midway when I checked them. As you can see, they've started to caramelize, and I'm gonna keep them in the oven for an additional 5 minutes because mine weren't soft as yet, but this is how it's looking now. As you can see, it's nice and soft. It's began to, caramelize face down on the tray. This is how it's looking. It's so soft and mushy already. So next, you're going to be prepping your pumpkin puree. So because your pumpkins are already soft, this step is going to be pretty easy. You're just going to take your spoon and carve out the fleshy part of the pumpkin. We're not blending the skin. So I'm going to do this for every single piece of pumpkin that I have. And then I'm going to squish them out with my whisk. If you have a potato masher, you can do that as well. I did not, so I used my whisk. It didn't take long. It took about 2 minutes to get everything squished out. When I was done though, I did put it in my blender, and I'm gonna go ahead and just blend that. You can add a little bit of water if you see that the mixture is too firm and stuff, but try like adding half a cup of water first. Don't add too much water because you don't want it to be thin. So this is how my pumpkin puree is looking, guys. Like, if I had a baby, I would definitely use this as some baby food with a little bit of cinnamon. And speaking of cinnamon, let's get into our croutons, shall we? So here I have 3 tablespoons of butter softened, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. But instead of 4 slices of bread, which this mixture can serve for, I'm actually just gonna do 1 because I was home alone this night. So this same amount of mixture that I'm making, you can use it to do 4 slices of bread if you have a large family and you want to make some croutons. Cinnamon croutons are like the holy grail for cream of pumpkin soup. Like, if you go to a fancy restaurant and stuff, you are guaranteed to have cinnamon croutons at the top of your soup. So I'm gonna speed this up a little bit. As you can see, my mixture has begun to cream out. I'm gonna take a bread knife or a small knife, you can use any knife that you have, and basically cover one side of my bread, and then you want to stick that in your toaster oven or your oven, whatever it is you have, for about 6 minutes. You don't want it to be too burned, too crunchy. So I did like 6 minutes max, but then again, my toaster oven is very, very, very hot. So, just do what works for you. Just remember, you're not making toast bread, guys. We are making croutons. Okay guys, now we're gonna get started on our soup. So I'm starting with 2 tablespoons of butter. Of course, you want to have this room temperature so it's easier to melt in the pot. Go ahead and put your pot on low heat so these babies can melt. Then you're gonna actually have 1 cup of chopped onion. If you're having trouble measuring this, you can just go ahead and chop up an entire medium onion. That's what I did. Then once your onions start to caramelize, once they start to soften, you can go ahead and add your chicken broth. So here you see me adding a can's worth of chicken broth. Personally, I added about 6 ounces or so. And then I'm gonna be stirring this until it's bubbly. But first, let's go check on our croutons. This is how the bread is looking, guys. And I put that aside so it can cool. Now, once we get back to our soup, ladies and gentlemen, this is how it should be looking while it's simmering. I just used the time to chop up my croutons into itty bitty pieces. Studies show that these can last up to 2 weeks in a tight container, but I'm not quite sure about that because mine only lasted a day. Now, guys, once your mixture cools, you can blend it in the blender and then you add it back to your pot, and then you add the second can of chicken broth. Here you see me adding a teaspoon of salt, well, a half a teaspoon of salt, and then I'm gonna be adding my cinnamon. So you want to add a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon to your mix. Personally, the recipe did say 1/8 teaspoon of ground ginger, but I did not have that. So what I did was I actually got 1-inch pieces of ginger and I blended it in my mixture when you saw me add the blended mix earlier. After that, I went ahead and I added my 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper. I added my pumpkin puree, and then I'm gonna go ahead with my heavy cream. So you're adding 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, guys. Now you wanna put this on low heat because the aim is not to have the soup bubbly boiling. You just want to turn it really low so that everything can cook nicely. As you can see, there's some white clumps on the top because I threw in a little bit of coconut milk, guys. I actually added about 3 tablespoons of coconut milk powder, and so we're gonna have some clumps at the top, but nevertheless it cooked just fine. This is how my soup is looking after simmering for about 20 minutes on extremely low heat. I added my croutons, I sprinkled my parsley, and guys, it was so delicious. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.